Okay, we'll just give it a second for YouTube to let everybody in. Okay, just let me know if the sound and everything is okay, because we've got a crazy one today. Okay, just another 30 seconds and we'll get started then. Okay, good. Everyone can hear me okay. Wonderful. All right, 10 more seconds, we'll get going. Great. Okay, let's get this stream started then, because this is a wild one. In fact, for those of you who have been subscribers here for a number of years, this is one of these videos where you can finally say that after, I don't know how many years it's been, 3 or 4 years of people calling you a conspiracy theorist and all this other things for talking about measures like digital IDs for everyone, compulsory digital IDs, etc. You can now finally say, didn't you say to me that I was crazy and everything else? So you can finally say this to your friends and family. Well, they're probably not friends anymore, but that's what we're going to talk about today, because this announcement is mind-blowing. It's taken me a few days because I needed to really dig into this. I had to read all of the documents, all the new laws and everything that were going to be coming through. Otherwise, if I just talked about it on the day it was released, it wouldn't have meant too much, because I needed to get a full understanding and go over all of the laws around it. And so that's what we're going to get into now. Pretty crazy, actually. And just a reminder, because I get emails and stuff like this about the courses. The courses are not on sale until the 20th. So we're going to do a big Black Friday courses sale this month. So it's going to be probably one of the biggest sales I've ever done. So that's going to start in about a week's time. Okay, so let's get into this then, and let's talk about what the EU has just announced. And we're going to go to the shared screen in a moment and go over all of this. But if you want a little overview, for those of you who always say, Neil, you're live, I gotta go, and everything else, let me give you a quick overview, and then I'm going to go into massive detail for everyone else that's going to stay for the full stream. I don't know how long this stream is going to be either today. So here's a little overview. The European Union has just passed, yes, not a conspiracy theory, it's finally official, what we've been talking about on this channel here. And when I say we, I know it's only me, but you as well, subscribers, for years now. We said this was going to happen. Everyone laughed at us, called us crazy, said we're tinfoil hat people, and all this other stuff. And yet it's now passed. So what they are talking about is a digital ID for every European Union citizen. This is going to be your face, your fingerprints, and an eye scan is going to be stored. This is going to be compulsory, okay? This is your face, a facial scan, fingerprints, and an eye, a retina scan for everybody. And basically, all of these cybersecurity people now are going crazy. Over 500 people, cybersecurity experts, have said this is insane what is being announced. This is absolutely insane, because it's not going to make things more secure. It's actually going to make them less secure. So I'm going to jump around between the shared screen and me talking, but I just want to jump to the shared screen a moment. Let me just get this loaded up for you one moment here. Okay, here we go. So this was the initial tweet. We did it. Deal. With the European Union, or the European Digital Identity Wallet, all citizens will be able to have a secured e-identity for their lifetime. The wallet has the highest level of both security and privacy. Not according to all the experts. The politicians love saying this, but the experts say the opposite. Giant step and a world premiere to my teams, and yeah. co-legislators. I'd call them co-conspirators, actually. We've even got this lovely little video here. Yeah, look at them all with the thumbs up. Oh, yes, lovely. So have a look. I got to say, have a look at the comments below this video. I won't comply. Control. We don't. Well, actually, we won't look at that one. Some swear words there. Straight to slavery. No one believes your BS. Thanks, but no. I couldn't find a positive comment as I was going through all of this. Dictators, criminals, everyone is just doing a massive pushback against this. No one voted for this. We're going to actually get on to that in a moment. For people who always say, Neil, what do you mean when you say nobody votes for these things in the European Union? I'll explain all of that. But let me just show you this then. The European Digital Identity. Council and Parliament reach a provisional agreement on the EID. With a view to, well, in fact, we'll skip a lot of this stuff. Let's jump straight to here. We're taking a fundamental step so that citizens can have a unique and secure European digital identity. This is a key advance for the EU to be a global reference, keyword here, globalist, in the digital field, protecting our democratic rights and values. That is an oxymoron in itself. How on earth they are coming up with that, I'm not sure. I mean, this is just word weaving as usual. And we'll get on to this, vice presidents and all these roles in a moment. So here it is, digital identity wallet. Actually, I will read through some of this. The revised regulation constitutes a clear paradigm shift, definitely a paradigm shift, for digital identity in Europe, aiming to ensure universal access for people and businesses to secure and trustworthy electronic identification. That is what they are doing, electronic identification of you and authentication. Why do you need to authentication to who? Why does a human being need this exactly, you may ask? So this is going to be for businesses, digital wallets. We talked about this, digital wallets, and this is where it links into my whole theory on this massive cyber attack that's going to happen, and the financial system's going to have a problem. And oh, what a surprise, the digital wallets and all this stuff is already set up. Oh wow, thank goodness that this coincidence was already there. So this is so you can prove your identity and share your electronic documents. Well, later on, and if you go into the official documentation, they say you won't need electronic documents. So what exactly is it? Is it that you won't need electronic documents? Or is it that you can share your electronic documents? See, there's a lot of things here that they're not clear on. There's a lot of very bizarre and weird stuff here. You'll also be able to access online services. Now, I'm going to get into this as well, where they talk about medical services. You'll need your digital ID if you want to access medical services. I'm sure we've heard that before, and it will be recognized throughout Europe. And this is concluding the initial provisional agreement. Now, let me just highlight a couple of things I pulled out here. They've used the word business model. Whenever you see the word business model in anything, you know that there is a financial incentive behind it. So how exactly that's going to be done, I've got a couple of ideas on. In fact, we'll talk about this in a second. But it says that it will be free of charge for all natural persons. Yes, well, if you are not paying, then you are the fee. And the other one which we've got to talk about is why the cybersecurity people are freaking out about this, because they want to add in, the EU wants to add in their own verification behind the website, so they can block websites and block access to what you can see and all this sort of stuff. So that is, so the whole business model aspect, whenever you see business model, and please drop in the comments and in the live chat if you're online your thoughts on this. Whenever you see this around anything at all, it was like, I want to talk a little bit around COVID and some of the similarities as well. But if you remember during COVID, they kept using words like business model all the time. And as soon as I saw that, before I saw that, I wasn't overly skeptical, but as soon as I started seeing business model for all the different countries, I was like, hold on. Why is there a business model behind this? Why is it saying that a nurse will earn this amount of commission, or a doctor will earn that amount of commission, and it's different for different age groups? And I was like, hold on, something's not right here. And I remember talking about that at the beginning, and of course, you're crazy, Neil. You're putting my health at risk. All the other things that people would say. I'm like, no, I'm just saying this is a little bit weird. Why do they have to incentivize? Why is there commissions on this stuff? Why are there these business models? It's it's all a little bit strange if you ask me. So let me go into some of my notes then that I've written, because okay, so we've talked about the cybersecurity experts then. Yeah, oh, here's the other thing. I've got all my notes on my phone. I was typing just before the video. Now, you might think, some of you who are not skeptical, you might say, yeah, but Neil, this is probably a good thing. This could be great. I'm always losing my passport or my driving license, and, I'm losing bank cards and all this. This would be great. No one can steal my identity. Maybe not. Maybe it could be easier for your identity to be stolen. But the thing that I'm most worried about, let's just say that you're one of these people and you completely believe in this whole government, the EU government, even though it's not elected. But anyway, let's put that to the side. Let's just say you completely believe in these people. You think Ursula and all these people, they're wonderful people. They are, heaven sent. They're angels sent here to do the most wonderful thing. They're just the most wonderful people in the world. Let's just pretend you think that. Okay. And they're going to pass this thing so that it's for your protection. Well, let's just pretend now then that we have a shift, and it goes from these wonderful, amazing people to some crazy authoritarian dictators that somehow get into power. Because we know that when technology like this comes in, when a government has control, they never give it back. Never, ever, ever do they give it back. They always hang on to it because they want more control. That's what a government wants: more control, more taxation. So what do you do in that situation when you've got all of your stuff digital, your IDs? This is what they're talking about. It's all your face scan, your retina scan, your fingerprints. It's going to be talking about how you can travel or not travel, how you can, it says it in the documentation, booking a hotel, booking a train, hiring a car. I'm not saying this, that's what it says in the documentation. Well, what happens? And it also talks about the cities that you can live in, right? Actually, that might have been someone else talking about that. Let me just retract that one. I'm going to retract that last bit about the cities, okay? But what are you going to do if something crazy happens and someone comes in like a dictator and they have access to everything and they control everything that you can or cannot do? You're screwed. You are basically screwed if that happens. So they would be my first notes. And the second point I want to make is, do you remember, it was either last week or the week before, I did that video on what the EU wants to pass, and there was this Polish politician, MEP, that it just lifted the lid. He's a whistleblower. He's saying exactly what they want to do. So let me just recap a quick summary for 30 seconds on that. The EU is saying that there's too many people with voting rights. MEPs from different countries, they have too many voting rights, and it leads to arguments, and they're saying there's too many arguments, and they want it to be more simple, more clean. So what do they want to do? Well, they want to take it down from all these people having votes, these MEPs, to just 5 people having a vote. That is what he's saying that they want to do by, I think it's 2025 or 2026, so not far away. So let's just pretend now then that these 5 people do get all the votes, they do get into power, and they're not elected by the citizens of the European Union. And they have access to all this digital ID and everything else. They have access to everything, control of the whole system. Well, what if these 5 people are not ethical? What if they turn out like, do you remember the video I did on that Greek, she was the vice president of the European Union. Her name will come to me in a second. She, very beautiful woman, and all that sort of. You probably remember her. She was a Greek woman, and everyone said, "Oh, she's the most wonderful, beautiful woman on the inside and out," and all this. And then it found out that there was all this fraud going on, and she was getting bags of money from all these different countries to pass stuff in the. Well, that's what they're saying, to pass stuff in the EU to get things passed through. I don't know, it was like some sort of Middle Eastern countries like Qatar or whatever it was. It was a while back now, but if you remember, put it in the chat. Well, there's a prime example. So how crazy is this theory really? Not at all, because I've just given you a perfect example there of the vice president of the EU that was involved in this massive scandal. So this is the stuff that people always say, oh, you guys, and they talk about me and a lot of my subscribers, you guys are crazy thinking all this stuff. No, it is facts. These are the things that keep happening. So let's see. I just want to go through a couple more of my notes here then. Yeah, so what if as well, they then start to use this as incentives. So let's say it's the digital ID, or this is a social credit score, or it's your carbon credit score. What if they start to use these incentives? Okay, and they say, oh, let's just give the citizens a little nudge at the moment. The carbon credits isn't moving fast enough. We need more of them to do this with carbon and get rid of their wood burners, or we'll give them an extra few carbon score or sort of things like that. Oh, hold on, we haven't had enough donations for some sort of war propaganda, whatever that war is in the future. Okay, we need to do some more nudges there to get some more. Okay, what about medical? Okay, are enough people going out and getting loads of different jabs? How many? Oh, we're up to 3 this year. Okay, we need to a couple more. Let's get people some more. And then what might they do? Well, what did they do during COVID era? If you hadn't had your jabs, in some establishments, you couldn't even go in. I think France was one of the main players. You couldn't even go into a restaurant, if you remember this, right? So what's stopping all these things from happening in the future? Absolutely nothing. And we know, going through the first, second, third, fourth turning cycles, the historical cycles here, that this is the way it's leading. This is the way it's looking to go. So I don't see this decelerating. I see it accelerating. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up, because I know there's going to be pushback on what I'm saying here, and people say, yeah, but I don't think this is going to happen with this group of people. Do you remember? And I've got to actually, here we go. Do you remember this? This is the same guy, remember, that I just showed you here from his post. Okay, this guy. Now, look at this post. They thought it was impossible, but we made it. As of today, every European citizen can have an EU COVID certificate to travel more freely, safely, and rapidly. So you needed this certificate, remember, to travel. And they said strong together. And there it is. There's the QR code in the middle there. And that was July 1st, 2021. So that was kind of a prerequisite, really, for what we're going through right now. I'm going to jump back and forth between me talking and a few other things. But I want to go on to what a lot of groups have been talking about, a lot of advocacy groups and cybersecurity, etc. And they're concerned about Article 45 on this reform on the eIDAS, where it says, and I'm quoting here, I've got it in red, radically expands. I mean, whenever you see the word radically, again, be worried, expands the ability of governments to surveil both their own citizens and residents across the EU. Okay, this is in their document. Radically expands the ability of governments to surveil both their own citizens and residents across the EU. That should be a red flag right away, an alarm bell. And this is via encrypted web traffic. Okay. The next thing, this clause came as a surprise because it wasn't about governing identities and legally binding contracts. It was about web browsers. And that's what triggered their concern. You can perhaps see why it might belong here, but once you go into the details, you can see why it doesn't. It's out of place. It should be actively resisted. So again, what they are talking about, this group, is that before they were behind it, if you read some of their press releases and things like that initially, they were behind it. They were absolutely fine with this digital ID and everything else that was coming through, and they understood it. But then it was once they started looking into it a lot more, they said, hold on, this stuff doesn't make sense. If it's really about protection, then why are they trying to put all of these measures in that will lead to less protection and more government control? And they figured it out really quickly. So that's why they put this document together and this letter together. So yeah, it was the exact same people, these EU politicians. In fact, let me just show you something else here. Because we have 3 presidents of the EU. Okay, so these are the ones this is the lady you see all the time, Ursula, right? Everyone knows Ursula. She's the European Commission president. But you also have Charles Michel. He's the European Council president. Who is he appointed by? National leaders. He's not voted in. Again, who is she appointed by? National leaders, with the approval of the European Parliament. Who is Roberta Metsola? Who is she appointed by? She's elected by members of the European Parliament. And then you start looking at, well, who are they elected by? And this is where you go into a really deep and dark rabbit hole. But let me just move on to another thing I wanted to show you here. A couple of months ago when Greece, again, because you always see a guinea pig for all these things. You always see a canary in the coal mine. As soon as it was announced for Greece first, the people rallied against these biometric ID cards. So they came out in force in Greece against it. Thousands of Greeks rallied in Athens against the impending introduction of biometric ID cards, denouncing what they see as a move towards a surveillance society. No to electronic slavery, and democracy has referendums, fascism decrees. Okay, so that's what they were saying. We don't want our personal data to be used. Perhaps with this new card, they'll be able to control our access to hospitals or other public places, for example, if we aren't vaxxed. This serious subject should be put to a referendum and not decided anti-democratically by the government. The Greek government announced last week that the procedure for obtaining new identity cards would begin, so bear in mind we're going back now to September 25th, noting Greece's obligation to comply with EU regulations on strengthening the security of ID documents. All members of the bloc, here we go, must issue new biometrics that we're talking about here that's just come out. So they'd already done it. There's always a test case that you can find for this stuff. And if you honestly believe that the UK isn't going to follow suit, people keep saying to me, oh yeah, but Neil, the UK has left the European Union, and UK citizens, we voted against all this stuff. We voted against stopping illegal migration, for example, which is one of the things on that document. I'll show you in a second. We voted to stop all of this stuff, and it's not going to happen. Well, let me show you this, because this was back in 2006, UK Verify. And what was the reason, if you recall, why they said we needed UK Verify? It was to combat, they said, illegal immigration, terrorism, and welfare and identity fraud. Well, did it work? No. All of this stuff is up massively. So that is what I see so far. I just want to go back to my notes a second here, because there's a couple more things I wanted to talk about. So the cybersecurity professionals on their document, they said that the EU government agencies can now legally intercept all internet traffic. So even if you're using VPNs or whatever, you won't be able to. But they can legally intercept all internet traffic, and store the data. So they can store it all. And these experts are saying, why would they need to do that? There is no reason for them to need to store all of this data. The law would also allow any EU country to intercept any EU citizen's communication. So if you're in Italy, you could intercept communications from a Spanish citizen. Okay, so there's no borders to this. The other one, which is quite controversial is around big companies, so big tech. You probably noticed quite recently, you might have, like I said, I haven't been on Facebook for months, and I went on a couple of days ago to look at, what we're talking about the other day anyway. We won't get into all that again. And I was asked, do I want to keep ads on and use the platform for free? And I was like, what is this? And it's all because of what's going on with this new EU and all these new censorship laws. So what they're doing is they are forcing, it says here, large tech companies to comply with these new laws. So this includes Amazon, Facebook, Bookings.com, TikTok, Instagram, X, just to name a few. If they want to continue operating within the EU, they must follow this law. So basically, they can see all the traffic and everything else. App Store, Google Play Store, YouTube, Google Maps, all of these will be part of the Digital Services Act. Okay, this is the last bit I want to share with you, which was basically verified everything that we've been talking about. It says EU citizens will be able to use their new wallet for things like opening a bank account, making payments, CBDC, here we come, holding digital documents like driver's licenses, and access to medical treatments. So what does that mean? Does that mean if you don't do this, you're not going to get access to medical treatments like we saw in some hospitals and during sort of 2020, 2021 time? It's not clear. But it does say, once adopted, the European Digital Identity Framework will be effective 20 days after its publication in the official journal, with member states having 24 months to provide digital identity wallets to their citizens. Okay, so what does that mean then? It means that if you're an EU citizen, you have got 2 years from today, and that's the limit. It says you have to have it done within 24 months. So you've got 2 years. So if you go forward to November 2025, or let's say the 1st of December 2025, that is the deadline when this will be here for the European Union, if not earlier. Yeah. Now, just in case anyone says, Neil, this was very biased, haven't you got anything positive to say? I've pulled up a positive article, okay? I found this on Forbes. You will be able to fly without a passport or a boarding pass, because they'll be able to just scan your face, your eye, your fingerprints, and that way you won't need to carry that really heavy passport in your pocket. And yeah, I mean, that's the good news. So that just so the video wasn't completely biased. I know everyone will accuse me. I'll get accused of being biased here. So I wanted to make sure I brought in something positive. You give away all your freedoms, but you'll be able to not carry that passport in your pocket, that really heavy document that so, save some weight in your luggage, guys. So that's it. All right. Good news all round today. Absolutely crazy news. So take care. God bless. See you tomorrow.